I hope new attendees will join at some point. We are gonna welcome everyone. So let's start. Oh, I am with two users. Well, okay. I don't know what happened. So good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Eugenia Saini, the Executive Secretary of Fontagro. Welcome to today's webinar. We have the privilege of delving into a fascinating realm of space exploration, anchored by the innovative work of Starlab and the esteemed Dr. Horack at The Ohio State University. As we gather today, we embark on a journey that transcends the boundaries of our planet, venturing into a vast expanse of the universe, a different part of the research that we traditionally do. This webinar serves as a platform to celebrate the groundbreaking research and the pioneering initiative that is led by the Starlab, which is a beacon of the innovation in the field of space science and technology. The helm of this endeavor is Dr. Horack, John Horack, a distinguished figure whose expertise and passion have propelled the boundaries of our understandings of the universe. So, Dr. Horack, thank you very much for being part of this webinar, this initiative, for working with Fontagro and the 15 countries and in collaboration to promote this new research in another different environment that we regularly do. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And for those listening live or those who will see the recording, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Jason, I pass the microphone to you.
Thanks, Eugenia. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Phillips. I am the Director of Foundation Relations at The Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. It is a pleasure to be with you all today, and all the extra Eugenia signees that we see as participants. We know that some of those folks are OSU folks, so that's why there's multiple of you on the call, Eugenia. But this is the first webinar in our series with Fontagro focused on the opportunities for research at the intersection of agriculture and space. We're very excited about the opportunity to share the direction of our research and try to find opportunities to collaborate with each of you. So I invite you to reach out following today's webinar and discuss how we might be able to move forward and form new partnerships following the webinar. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. John Horack. Dr. Horack serves as a professor in mechanical and aerospace engineering, the Center for Aviation Studies, and the John Glenn College of Public Affairs at The Ohio State University. He also serves as the inaugural Neil Armstrong Chair in Aerospace Policy, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at The Ohio State University. Dr. John Horack, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. And again, it's a pleasure to be here to share a little bit about the work that Ohio State is engaged in, supporting a really innovative and exciting future for research in low Earth orbit to benefit the people on Earth. I'm also joined here today by David Marsh, who represents Voyager Space Holdings. And David, if you could just say hi, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Excited to speak with you today. Yeah, we're very excited about this program. I'll let John talk about it a little bit further. And then John, if you have anything else you'd like us to add from the Voyager perspective, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the research that we're doing is as innovative as the partnerships that we are creating, between private sector companies, universities, nonprofits, and space agencies. And so to be able to see this from all the different dimensions about how we might grow these kinds of innovative research collaborations across Latin and Central America. And I know you'll share a little bit about the work that Voyager has done in this region as well, to set up partnerships. So if I can maybe share my screen here and let me know if you can see that. Okay, we're all good. So this is what we're going to speak about today. And as Jason mentioned, Ohio State University and Fontagro, we work together under an MOU that has recently been signed. And so this is a little bit of an Ohio State centric perspective, but that's why I was happy to have Dave here as well to bring in the Voyager perspective as well. So what's happening in space flight around the world, maybe you've had a chance to see the International Space Station fly over your home or your home country. We have had human beings in orbit 24/7, 365, continuously since November of 2000. And so our space station, as beautiful and magnificent as it is, as much as we have really benefited here on Earth from learning how to live and work in space, how to create an amazingly complex and fulfilling program in one of the most challenging environments possible. Frankly, it's an old spacecraft, and so there needs to be a plan for what happens when this spacecraft needs to be retired, and it will be retired at the end of 2030. And what will happen, much as NASA has done with the way in which we supply cargo to the International Space Station and which we now supply people to the International Space Station, these have moved from government programs to commercially provided services. It's not quite like the NASA administrator can, go into the website of Iberia Airlines and find a flight and click a button. But it's more like that. And so what's going to happen, and NASA made 3 awards in December of 2021 to stimulate the growth of privately owned, commercially operated space stations in low Earth orbit. So we've gone from cargo to crew and now to commercial space stations. And one of those awards was made to a company called Nanoracks, which is part of the Voyager space holding company. This is now being executed. This is called Starlab. And this space station is being executed in a joint venture that is between Voyager Space Holdings, Airbus, which is a European aerospace company, and now most recently, April 5th, it was announced that Mitsubishi has joined as an equity partner in that joint venture as well. So this is truly an international collaboration spanning the Western Hemisphere in terms of Voyager, Europe with Airbus, and now Asia with Mitsubishi. And you see a picture of the Starlab space station there. To give you an idea, the cylinder that you see is about 8 meters in diameter. It's also about 8 meters long and will hold 4 human beings 24/7, 365. And they will be engaged in a myriad of research topics and areas, one of which we anticipate will be very, very concentrated and a strong focus in things like plant biology, agriculture, leveraging the environment of spaceflight for benefiting agriculture on the ground, improved nutrition, how to grow plants in very resource-constrained environments. This is some of the research that you will see going on. It is to be launched in one launch. So this previous picture that I showed you of the ISS, this required dozens of assembly flights in orbit to put all the pieces together. And here, we will put this simply on top of a Starship rocket. It will be a very exciting day in December of 2028 when this space station goes to orbit, but it will be ready to do research almost the minute it hits the Earth orbit. And so we will be ready to go with a crew of 4 shortly after launch, and they will dock with the space station, and they will begin the process of collaborative international and global research activities on board. So some of the partners here, I neglected, I'm sorry to not have updated this with the Mitsubishi logo. That was, as I said, within the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But you can see a variety of organizations here. I'll just point out Hilton Hotels as one example of the innovative partnership that Dave and his team at Voyager and Airbus have put together. Hilton is designing the astronaut accommodation, so where the astronauts will sleep and have meals together and perform their hygiene and perhaps where they relax. Yes, with an eye on future hospitality environments in space. And of course, food is always an important part of what happens when you go to a hotel. If they have a great restaurant, that's always pretty exciting. But also how they use the spaceflight environment to learn about ways in which to improve the hospitality environment on the ground. So you can really see that this is something very different than a sort of a standard government program. And that's one of the reasons that I'm super excited about it. And in this, Ohio State is really honored to be the lead university. And in this partnership, we basically have 5 jobs. I will note the job at the top, the growth of the global research community across university, industry, nonprofit, and government entities. So this series of webinars, which we're kicking off today between Voyager, Ohio State, and Fontagro, really is an opportunity for us to create awareness, to engage and invite you to come be a part of this. and indeed to come be a part of deciding what the research is going to be. I think it's really important to stress that this is a collaborative activity, so we don't necessarily have a list of things from which you can pick. We have an opportunity together to put our brains together and figure out how to use the low Earth orbit environment to benefit, maybe perhaps it's nutrition in Panama, perhaps it is deforestation and agricultural stewardship in Costa Rica, or whatever that happens to be, and you are the experts in your region. And so we're looking to open the door and say, how can we help you accomplish the objectives that you're working for? On the left side, we're a university naturally, so we're strongly interested in workforce development, creating new professionals across the globe that can come in and be a part of our community and engage students and success. Continuing sort of down on the lower left-hand side, research that gets done, of course, it needs to be published in journals and it needs to be written into textbooks if we still have those, I don't know. Those are old-fashioned way of learning, but also to help create new products, new companies, new technologies, new startup businesses. Nothing perhaps gets people so excited as to get a job, but it's even more exciting perhaps if you can make a job and create jobs, especially in your local region and in your area. And along the right-hand side there, we are providing, as a fourth task, scientific leadership in specific areas. See, Peter Ling is on today. So, for example, Peter is helping guide the design of the agricultural growth chambers through the development of requests for information to industry and analyzing the needs and the requirements that we will have. So those are 4 of the jobs. And then I'll talk about the next job on the lower right-hand side. I'll go into that a little bit. 99% of what happens in a spaceflight experiment actually happens on the ground. The most exciting part is in space, but most of the work that gets done, most of the human beings engaged, 100% of the money that gets spent is on the ground. And so one of the things that we are also working with Voyager on is the establishment of something called the George Washington Carver Science Park. This will be the first university partnership research park in the United States that we know of expressly devoted to spaceflight related research. Now, the naming of the park after Dr. George Washington Carver, you can see his picture there in the United States, probably one of the most successful plant biology and agricultural scientists that the United States has ever produced. And we will engage university, government, private sector collaborators from across the globe and from across multiple disciplines, from agriculture to astrophysics, to convene and coordinate and integrate and allow cross collaboration, not only for science research, but also for global workforce development, STEM education, and public outreach. We'll be a member of the International Association of Science Parks. And one of the anchors inside this park will be the Starlab U.S. ground location, where we can begin the process of developing experiments and prototyping hardware and doing fit checks and interface checks and making sure that commands work properly, that we can do ground-based research that parallels the space-based research activities, so that the differences that you see in space are actually due to the flight as opposed to some other variable that might have snuck its way in. So you will see especially in a plant, ag, and bio perimeter, sort of area of research, we're very strong and very interested in pursuing developments in controlled environment agriculture, because when you grow plants in space, for example, that is a very, very strict definition of controlled environment agriculture. Plant pathology, improving nutrition, working on specialty crops, or perhaps crops that are indigenous and very important to a particular region because of the diet that part of supplements the diet, or perhaps because it only grows in this particular area. And then how do we also grow more sustainability in our food supply, for example, through diversification of the seed lines that we use. In the United States, we always look at the bananas that come into the United States, and essentially my understanding is that they're pretty much clones of each other. So if you have a problem in the banana crop, it's not really that easy to source from somewhere else, because they all have such a close genetic similarity that, let's say, a disease infects everybody, and then you have to sort of switch everything out. I remember there was a time here where suddenly the bananas got a lot smaller. These kinds of things that help sustain our food supply. With Ohio State, we are partnered with the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences, who execute on behalf of the university the agreement that we have with Fontagro. I mentioned the ground analog research and payload development capabilities. And then with Voyager Space, the existing agreements that are present in Central and Latin America. So Dave, did you want to say a few words? I have some of them listed here about some of the MOUs and agreements that Voyager Space has in the region and how they became put in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the overview, John. So, the International Space Station has been an absolutely incredible example of international cooperation. Something in the order of 3,000 or 4,000 experiments have been conducted on the station, providing some really remarkable scientific, advantages from a whole number of different fields. But if you look at that science, the majority of it has been conducted by really only a handful of countries. So the United States, Russia, some European countries, Japan, Canada, those really have formed the core of the ISS. And they actually signed intergovernmental treaties back in the 90s to decide who gets what access to the ISS. And that worked great for the space situation at the time. But we have an opportunity now to really open up space to other countries. So while John mentioned a couple countries that we've already signed contracts with their countries and their agencies to, in some sense, kind of recreate the ISS. So Europe through Airbus, Japan through Mitsubishi, and we're going to be adding other institutional investors from other countries. We're not restricting Starlab to just those countries. And we want to be sure that we're using this as an opportunity to build lasting relationships with agencies and scientific organizations from around the world. And so as we were starting this program a couple of years ago, we saw Latin America as one community and region where space could serve some clear advantages in the fields of agricultural research and life sciences, but also where some of those agencies and space programs were, hadn't had the same access to the International Space Station. So we signed some agreements. You can see them here. This is by no means an exhaustive list. We intend to sign other agreements with other agencies and scientific communities. But what we'd like to do is begin the conversations now about what are the national priorities for these different countries, what types of science do they care about, what are the specific investigations that matter to their communities, and how can we start building plans and relationships for when Starlab is in orbit in 2028, and then while it's operating for the next 30 years. Because we don't want to restrict Starlab to just the same 5 or 6 countries that traditionally use the ISS. We want to make sure that we're using this as an opportunity to, democratize access to space, really allow anyone who is interested, anyone who has relevant science that would benefit from the microgravity environment. We're not restricting anybody. And so we're really excited about these opportunities to kind of spread this awareness. And if you're from a country that is not represented on this list, please do not be discouraged by not seeing it. We'd be more than happy to facilitate conversations, whether through OSU, Fontagro, or directly with Voyager, to understand how we can start building pathways to cooperate with other countries on board. I'll pass it back to you there, John.
Yeah, thanks, David. And I think that's really an important thing that you mentioned, is that there are multiple pathways in which you can engage. So if you feel better about interfacing through Fontagro, that's excellent. If there's perhaps a company in your region that would rather interface company to company with Voyager, then that's fine. If there's a university that, the university interface might be easier to manage, that's fine. We're happy to do that, all in support of the work that IDB and Fontagro are doing. So 5 of the Voyager Space MOUs that I know have been made public are there on the screen. We also work closely with David, and I both have a colleague, Alejandro Ramon, who runs the space agency in Paraguay. Ohio State has special relationships with Costa Rica, not only due to the fact that the president of Costa Rica is a 3-time Ohio State graduate, but these are all sort of areas where I think we can explore and how to nucleate and really understand, as David was saying, what are the research priorities in the region, and how do we leverage those and bring those into here so that we can make some progress for you. So one of the things that we're doing, you see at the top here, early webinars and informational sessions. That's what we're doing today. We'd welcome the opportunity to schedule, in-region, in-country workshops, conferences, or deeper engagements that go beyond the opportunity to gather here. David mentioned collaborative research. These can be also proprietary research and participatory research activities, of course, but also proprietary. In other words, we don't require you to publish everything because it is a commercial venture. And then exchanging people and ideas and cultures to build these partnerships, ultimately to create these quality economic, social economic, educational, and quality of life outcomes, and also build capacity further in Central and Latin America for space-related R&D, as David said. So it's not just the same 5 countries that have been using the space station to go forward. So what I'd like to do is maybe just conclude with a little video. Sometimes I don't know if the sound works, but you can find this on Vimeo, and it's a good advertisement for sort of what's going on here. It's just a minute, a little commercial.
Dr. Horack is not playing the video, at least in the screen.
And I think I realized I shared the wrong screen. Oh, well. All right. Let me, you couldn't see that, could you?
No, we didn't. Yeah.
I shared the wrong window. Okay, never mind. All right. Well, that was a very nice commercial that you can find. And Eugenia, we're at our 30 minutes, so I won't make you sit through that again. All good. I apologize for not switching the window there. All right. We'd be happy to take any questions you have. I see, we're joined by quite a few people here online, so happy to take any questions. And thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Horack. If anyone have questions that may want to add in the chat, we are gonna happy to take it. I think there is another organization that is the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture, which is ICA, is the organization that we work with. And we have initiatives in controlling environmental agriculture. Actually, we have an initiative that I think I mentioned to you is in Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, and Argentina. I think we can see the project has started, but we can reach of those scientists as well. I think it's very important to have more webinars on these initiatives. I think as we talk in several times, we are just too much focused on what happened in the planet, but we are not understanding that there's still a lot of research that have to be done in another conditions, which is in space. So I'm very glad that we start with this first webinar, and very happy and looking at more of them, Dr. Horack, and see how we can introduce the topic more deeply in our audience, because this is a very new initiative, and of course is hard sometimes to reach more scientists that are working on this, but I'm pretty sure that we are gonna do very much effort to increase and gather more people related with this type of research, or at least they are interested in doing this research as well. Let me see if we have any comment. I know we have the link on the chat. I don't know, Jason, if you would like to add any other comment.
Great presentation. Thank you for opening the door to these kinds of partnerships for Dr. Horack and a lot of our faculty at Ohio State that are looking to build bridges into Central Latin America, Central and South America, and see the translational aspects of their work. So we're looking to do other webinars with faculty in Fontagro. So for some of the OSU folks online, please reach out to me if you're interested in expanding your partnerships in Latin America and have relevant research. We'd love the opportunity to keep doing educational webinars just like this, featuring our work and bringing more folks into the table to expand our partnerships.
Thank you very much,
and
Jason.
Eugenia,
Dr.
I'll go
Horack?
ahead and
Yes.
yeah, I'll just go ahead and put my email in the chat. It's easy. It's horack.1@osu.edu. And at any time, I'd be happy to answer any questions or come give a talk somewhere and just share what we're doing. The most important thing we can do is create awareness and then understand how this opportunity might best serve the needs of the researchers. And as Dave Marsh said, the priorities of countries and communities in Central and Latin America.
Absolutely. We have a question in
Sure.
the chat, which says, thank you for the fascinating talk. Do you have any examples of agricultural research that could benefit from being carried out in space? It's made by
Sure.
Joshua Taylor.
Sure. So one of the things that I didn't get to show you on the video is that we will have, I'll give you two particular examples. We have the opportunity to install experiments on the inside and the outside of the station that we're deploying. And so, you know, perhaps one of the greatest contributions that spaceflight has made to agriculture is the ability to perform remote sensing from space. The monitoring of crops, the monitoring, large-scale monitoring of, you know, the harvest, yield, plant health, drought, possible infestations of disease or pests, estimating, you know, at some level precision farming, if you can get the resolution down enough to be able to say to a farmer, hey, you might want to look at the northwest corner of your 35 acres of corn because I think there might be something going on there before you might find it. So remote sensing is one of the most important things. And I expect that there will be, for lack of a better term, cameras hanging off the outside of the Starlab as it flies over to do a great deal of land observation and agricultural crop observation. The other thing is what would go on inside the Starlab space station. And so the ability to understand how plants actually work. You know, when I was a little boy, I was always fascinated that you could put a seed in the ground and the plant knows which way it is up. Which way to put my roots and which way to put my foliage so that I can collect sunlight. So there must be a gravity sensor somewhere in that corn kernel that knows the difference between up and down. Many plant diseases, for example, seem to mimic a loss of the gravity sensor, where the plant just starts to put roots out in all directions and spends a tremendous amount of energy on what is normally the subsurface structure of the plant and not as much energy on the above surface part of the plant. So there are many, many things that we can do by going to space, taking away gravity and changing the environment to learn literally how plants work, how disease propagates in plants, how water propagates through the soil, what kinds of, you know, what's the minimum condition under which you can grow a healthy plant. We have an abundance of sunlight, hopefully water, hopefully nutritious soil here on Earth in many places, but not in all places. So if we can learn how to grow plants in extreme environments, let's say in space, we know then a lot more about how we might be able to grow those plants in places on the Earth where there is less water or where the soil is less nutritious, those kinds of things. So those are two pretty interesting examples.
Thank you very much, Dr. Horack. I think we have a lot of initiatives that would be very, very interested. I think we need, Jason, maybe organize a second webinar trying to gather other scientists that specifically are working on this topic. I think they're going to be interested in go deeply in some question to you, Dr. Horack, and see how we can you know, exchange or collaborate on the initiative. There is another question from Dr. Miguel Arbelo. He's the representative of ICA at Panama. I think we can also organize a meeting with him He asked what kind of variables we can monitoring on water and climate from the initiative, especially thinking on agroecosystems in Panama region.
So first, I would love to be able to come back to Panama. I've had the chance to visit Panama 3 times for work and 1 time for vacation. I even got to stay in the Cap San Blas region on an island with Lacuna people there, La Amistad National Park. And part of that is because I used to, when I was at NASA, I worked with the Cathalac Center for Water and Humidity in Central America. They're located in the City of Knowledge there in what was the old Panama Canal zone. So I have some actual experience in working with water and water quality and agriculture, and also through Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute on Barro Colorado Island. So it'd be great to come back. Now, to answer the question, whether that is an understanding of sort of water quality that you can measure from space, because space can give you a very good estimates of plankton, turbidity, mineral deposits, silt, and other things associated with water quality. For example, those are all important in the canal zone region because of the amount of fresh water required, 50 million gallons, I think, every time a ship goes through the Panama Canal. So you need to take care of the rain and the watershed. But also, as I was saying before, the key physics and biology of literally how plants take up water at the root level, understanding the role that gravity plays in helping plants grow properly and nutritiously. When you take the gravity away, you can actually look and see what influence gravity has. We can monitor in space multiple gravity levels, multiple CO2 concentrations, multiple, obviously, humidity and temperature. Radiation environment is another interesting piece of the environment in space. It turns out that a significant amount of the rice that's sold in China, for example, actually has the seeds, the rice seeds have their genetic stem line origins in space-flown research, where you take a certain set of seeds to space, they're exposed to the space environment. The space environment changes them in such a way, for example, that improves the yield 10% or improves drought tolerance 15%. These are the kinds of things that happen and can be done. And I'd love to be able to come back and enjoy a nice meal in Panama and talk more about the science. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Dr. Horack. We have a scientist that also is working in remote sensing, but I don't see maybe any question from him by now, but I know he's interested as well. So I think it's great that we have this first chance to introduce the topic in Fontagro community and also ICA community. I would like to do again this webinar, Dr. Horack, if you agreed.
Yes.
And yes, and thank you so much, Jason, for also helping us and organizing the webinar.
My pleasure. One of many to come.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Muchas gracias. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.